No, I've got your paperwork. Have you read it? You're not going to push me around. Don't insult me. Don't insult me. Money's never a problem. You listen to me. You just have to honor the correct price. You got that? What? Then go home, Toby. You make me sick.
I can't do this many leads for $10.
Grow up, Toby.
Mac, open internet, please.
Command unknown.
I think I have to research alternative specs.
Searching alternative sex.
What?
Listing.
No, shut down.
Barnyardlove.net.
Abort.
Funwithfruit.com.
Oh, snap. A softball pitch.
You think you're good at this?
Oh. Get me a snow cone. Wow. This is it. A road trip.
I can't get off work.
Come on, guys. What do we have to look forward to anymore?
In my day, ladies stayed home, not the lazy men.
In your day, the men were busy building pyramids.
Look.
I think you all need this trip.
This spring, they may not know how to ride.
I gotta work on the fist tapping thing.
No, you gotta work on the bike riding thing.
But when they hit the road, they had no idea it would hit back. She is perfect.
I wanted to say something funny, but all I could think of was black jokes.
Please do tell. From Touchstone Pictures, they went looking for an adventure.
What did you do? Maybe I blew up their bar. Oh! I know, that was bad.
And found a journey
Oh, baby!
they never forget.
Never let life get too safe. Every now and then, you gotta slap the bull.
This will be interesting to see now that the bull's alert.
Alert!
Wild Hogs.
What do we have here? 4 men in bed, spoon it. You fellas don't even recognize just how lucky you are to have each other. Damn lucky. Are you wearing pants?
No.
Oh yeah, this was also around that time when John C. McGinley, they were trying to make him a name in movies that more of a bigger name than he was beforehand. I mean, he was known as mostly a character actor before. Of course, he became known as Dr. Cox, and this was one of those movies where they were trying to push him to be kind of the next big name in terms of comedies of stars from TV shows to make it to the big screen. Because this is the first of 2 movies that he was involved in. The other one being Are We Done Yet, which came out a month later. And I always remember, if you ever been on Spill.com, there used to be a member of the Leog, Jason Fisher. He had a video where he was talking about the movies of 2007 in review. And when he got to Wild Hogs, I always remember the one part where he goes like, gay joke, gay joke, gay joke. And he goes like, is that Dr. Cox? And then he goes back to gay joke. Like, yes, there is a lot of gay jokes in this movie, but I kind of like this movie. It's not a great movie overall. It's a very stupid comedy, but sometimes a good stupid comedy can work. This is a movie where you have 4 middle-aged men played by Tim Allen, Martin Lawrence, John Travolta, William H. Macy. They decide to take a road trip from Cincinnati to the Pacific in order to get away from their lives, which are leading them nowhere. Taking their motorcycles, these wild hogs tear up the road and eventually stop in New Mexico for a drink, not knowing that the bar belongs to the Del Fuegos, a mean biker club. When the Del Fuegos steal a bike that belongs to the wild hogs, the 4 men form a plan to steal the bike back, and shenanigans ensue. John Travolta blows the bar up, they go after them, and it just turns into like a big battle between the 2 bike gangs in general. And a lot of stars in this movie. I mean, not just the 4 big stars here. You have Marissa Tomei, Jill Hennessy, who was then on Crossing Jordan, the late Ray Liotta, Stephen Tobolowsky, MC Gainey, Kevin Durant, Tashina Arnold from Everybody Hates Chris, the Schuyler brothers, as I mentioned, John C. McGinley, Peter Fonda has a cameo in this movie. So a lot of big names all throughout this movie, and that was actually part of the plan when they made the movie. The producer of this is Brian Robbins, who we've talked about a couple of his movies beforehand. Of course, he directed Norbit, which was not a big hit, but according to him, he believed that the casting was essential to the success of the film and emphasized the importance of working with movie stars. And, I mean, when you got guys like Tim Allen, Martin Lawrence, and John Travolta and William H. Macy all in one movie, I mean, it's going to pay dividends for you. And this was a massive, massive hit when it came out. I mean, much more than I think anybody was ever expecting it to. And, it works because it's a fun, silly comedy with these big, notable names involved. I thought it was really funny. I think it is a very stupid, funny movie. I mean, John Travolta in the beginning of the movie, when he's getting mad at this kid for not picking up all the leaves, and he's just like, "Oh, grow up, Toby." It just like that's an Academy Award nominated actor saying that to a little kid. Like, it's like, you know that he's having the time of his life playing it much down than he usually does with more serious works. Again, there are jokes that don't really work. William H. Macy, you see it in the trailer with the computer and all that, talking about, I should be looking up alternative specs, and it's just like, searching alternative sex. Like, that thing just gets really old really fast. And there are jokes like that do get really, really old really, really fast. And ordinarily, I would not like this movie, but the guys in this movie are so committed to it. The four main heavyweights in here, they're so committed to this, and they know exactly what this movie is, and they're delivering what makes them work so well, and it works really well to the film itself. It's a very silly, funny movie where not everything about it works, but if you go into it with the right mindset, if you're just looking for a dumb, silly, stupid, fun comedy, you can have a good time with it. There are moments in here that made me legitimately laugh out loud. There's one moment at the end of the movie with the Schuyler brothers, who you might remember from the Oblongs. They were the brothers who were conjoined with three legs and like attached together, like they both shared the same stomach and all that. Like it was literally just one had like the face and body, and then the other also had the face and body, and they just had three legs, and I mean, they have a great little bit of a running gag in the movie, and it leads to maybe one of the funniest line readings of "You son of a bitch" I've ever heard in my life.
Like old hamburger head over here always. What did you just call me? See, when we walked up, you were on my... You son of a bitch!
I mean, I laughed hard the first time he did that. It's like, "You son of a bitch!" Like, just the way he says the word bitch at the end of it. Like, he just couldn't just say bitch. No, he had to emphasize it even more, to extend that to like, "You son of a bitch." Like, stuff like that makes me laugh out loud. Stupid stuff like that. And this is a very stupid movie. Yeah, it's not a great movie by any means necessary. It does have a ton of jokes that do not work very well at all. But the ones that do work, the silly jokes that they have in here, they did make me laugh, and it did get me to say that, okay, this is not a great movie by any means necessary, but like I said, if you go into it with the right mindset, you can enjoy the hell out of it, and I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie, and I'm so glad they didn't make a sequel to this, because I feel like a sequel would have really been pushing their luck. But you can thank this director's next movie, which features John Travolta in it, Old Dogs, for doing that, and if you saw one of my videos recently, you know that Old Dogs is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life, and most people agreed. It bombed hard. They were going to do a Wild Hogs 2 that was supposed to come out the next year, and then they canceled it, and I thought, and said, good on them, good for them for making them for the realization that, yeah, the stick worked once before, and then doing it the second time around, it just didn't work the second time around. Yeah, we'll get to that one eventually. But if you don't want to wait, go ahead and check out the video I did about Old Dogs. I'll put a link to it up in the corner. But like I said, Old Dogs, Wild Hogs, though, stupid, silly, but a fun movie. I had a good time with it. It is ridiculous. It's like The Pacifier from a couple of years ago, and it coincidentally come out in the same time slot that this did, the same releasing pattern as this did. But I liked it. Very silly, very stupid, but very fun all the way through. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Zodiac.
Helping people in the night?
I'm done with them. They don't need much help.
The Zodiac Killer has come to San Francisco.
Dear editor, I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper. He wants his code in the afternoon edition.
The killer still at Lorber.
Got any hard suspects?
I'm up to around 500.
He's hunting humans. You gonna catch this guy or not?
He's still out there, Dave.
I'm not the Zodiac, and if I was, I wouldn't tell you.
Who's this?
Zodiac, rated R, in theaters March 2nd.
I mean, come on, guys. We all know the Zodiac Killer lives in Texas, and he's the governor of the state. Actually, he's the senator of the state. I ruined my joke right there. There's your obvious Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer joke right there. But let's get to the movie itself. Zodiac. This is, of course, based off the true story of the manhunt for the Zodiac Killer, a serial killer who terrorizes the San Francisco Bay Area during the 60s and 70s, taunting police with letters, bloodstained clothing, and ciphers mailed to newspapers. The case remains one of the United States' most infamous unsolved crimes, and so David Fincher, the writer of this, James Vanderbilt, and the producer, Bradley Fisher, spent 18 months conducting their own investigation and research into the Zodiac murders, and Fincher actually employed the digital Thompson Viper film stream camera to photograph most of the film, and used traditional high-speed film cameras for slow-motion murder sequences. And if you see his movies later on down the road, I mean, it definitely continues to do that to this very day, and just goes to show what a great director he is. And, you know, have a cast that includes a top group of people: Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Edwards, Brian Cox, Elias Koteas, Donald Logue, John Carroll Lynch, Chloe Sevigny, Philip Baker Hall, Dermot Mulroney. A lot of really good talent in this movie. Everything about this movie just works so well. The script writing is great. The direction is really good. Does a pretty good job of correctly, accurately putting together San Francisco in the 1960s and 70s, and also just is a very engaging mystery for a mystery that is still very much going on to this day. Nobody knows who the Zodiac Killer is, even to this very day. And the fact that they were able to make a movie as good as this and just continue that is to just make a good film around it the way that David Fincher does here. It just goes to show what a great director he really is, because David Fincher really is one of the best directors we've ever had out there. And this is one of those movies that really shows that this guy can do it all, man. Like, he very rarely ever misses. I mean, his worst film he ever did was Alien 3. And even with Alien 3, it wasn't that that was not really his fault in general. It was his first movie as a director. It was a film that was dealt with a lot of production problems. But a movie like this really goes to show how far he's come in the 15 years since then as a film director, and what he's done even since then. This was not a big hit when it came out either. It actually kind of flopped, and mostly everyone thought this was going to be a shoe-in for the Oscars, but fortunately it didn't make the money that the studio was hoping for, so I guess they really just kind of abandoned it going to the Academy Awards. But that's a shame, because a lot of people had this in their top 10 list. I mean, this was one of the best movies of the year, and the fact that it got completely snubbed over was really something that just goes to show that the Academy has really short attention spans, because either you release a movie in September, is as early as September, because if you do it any other point in the year, at least back then, they're not gonna go ahead and nominate it, no matter how good the movie is. I mean, that's just the cold hard truth of the Academy Awards. At least back then it was. Nowadays they've kind of opened up a little bit, but still, there's a lot of good movies that come out before September that kind of get overlooked by the Oscars. But that's not the whole point I'm trying to bring up here. The point I'm trying to bring up here is that this is a really good movie. This is definitely one of David Fincher's best movies, one of the best movies of the year. Maybe his most underrated movie, considering that it didn't do as well as it did. But it really was a really good movie. It's a fantastic film, stacked with a great cast, a very engaging mystery that still continues to this very day. It just works so well. I really enjoy it a lot. A lot of people do too. It's Zodiac. Really good film. So with that said, let us move on to the most controversial movie of the weekend, no doubt about it. Samuel L. Jackson literally putting Christina Ricci in a locking her up in a chain and dragging her throughout the movie in Craig Brewer's follow-up to Hustle and Flow. This is Black Snake Moan.
Back in my house. What you thinking? A half-naked white woman chained up in your house? I done made up my mind on this. I ain't gonna be moved.
You can take this off.
No. You ain't right yet. I'm fixing steaks for supper. I expect you to stay.
Yeah, this movie had a weird marketing campaign that unfortunately didn't work to the film's advantages, despite the fact that this director had done Hustle and Flow, which won an Academy Award for Best Original Song a few years ago. It was a well-received movie. This one, not so much. It focuses on a Mississippi bluesman played by Samuel L. Jackson, who holds a troubled local woman played by Christina Ricci captive in his house in an attempt to cure her of nymphomania after finding her severely beaten on the side of the road. And the movie, I think, really had a really bad marketing campaign, not just because of the poster really just kind of sexual exploitation when you really look at it in the long sense of things. I mean, it feels like something where, yeah, people could take that the very wrong way, but the film kind of sold itself as this exploitative movie, like a movie that takes you back to like the days of like Rudy Ray Moore, Dolomite, that type of stuff. And there's kind of that in there, but not a lot of it, really. When you really watch the movie, it really does not feel like there is a lot of that in particular. And it kind of underplays what is all the good stuff about the movie, because there is a lot of really good stuff about the movie. The casting in this, pitch perfect. I mean, Christina Ricci, I think, is fantastic in this movie. I think she plays a very good character in this that has a lot of problems, and she plays the role very well here. Samuel L. Jackson is always going to be great whatever he's in. You got Justin Timberlake in here showing that, hey, this guy's got some acting chops to work with, and a really good soundtrack featuring a lot of great blues music all around. But yeah, the fact that the movie kind of really it does get very uncomfortable at times, and it does feel like a movie that is trying to be kind of like those old exploitive movies of the grindhouse movies of the 60s and 70s, and doesn't really succeed all that much, but it did a better job of it. Grindhouse, which comes out a month later, I think does a much better job of it. But as far as this movie goes, it really didn't do that part very well. But you got to give everybody credit for just going all in on this. I mean, Christina Ricci herself has said that she actually wore a 40-pound chain during the filming and ate only foods of no nutritional value to achieve this sickly appearance. And this was before the days where CG and AI can really just completely change your whole persona on the big screen. So you got to give her a lot of credit for going all in on this. And yeah, it actually is a lot better than I think most people let on. Is it as good as Hustle and Flow? No, Hustle and Flow I think is a far superior film, but this movie has a lot of good flashes here and there to make me say that, yeah, it's a movie that definitely deserves to be watched, especially if you like Hustle and Flow. If you like the actors involved in here, I think you do get a lot more than you're asking for with this film. The marketing campaign, though, was really, I think Christina Ricci kind of said it best when she said that, the movie was basically, the way they marketed the movie was probably one of the more disappointing and upsetting things that ever happened to her. And like she said, that she had no interest in exploiting women any further than they'd already been exploited. And all the marketing bosses cared was about college-age boys going to see the movie. And I mean, she's not wrong. I mean, the poster literally is Samuel L. Jackson holding Christina Ricci with a chain, and the only difference is that she's not in her panties like in the movie. She's wearing short jeans. I mean, that's about as much of exploitive as you're gonna get. But if you watch the movie in full and actually pay attention to it, there is a lot of value to the film itself. Like I said, not a great movie overall, but definitely a much better film than I think people let on. Not as good as Hustle and Flow, but it's a movie I do recommend. I think it's a very good film, boasted by the strong performances of the three leading actors. Black Snake Moan, I think it's a very good film.
And now, Warner Brothers Pictures presents a special sneak preview of the motion picture 300.
Spartans, prepare for glory! Be afraid! Sparta will burn to the ground!
What must a king do to save his world?
Instead, ask yourself, what should a free man do?
This is madness!
Madness.
This is Sparta! A new age has begun. An age of freedom. And all who know that 300 Spartans give their last breath to defend it. 1,000 nations of the Persian Empire descend upon you. Our arrows will blot out the sun.
Then we will fight in the shade.
Tonight, we dine in hell!
300.
There's no reason we can't be civil.
Only in theaters and IMAX March 9th.
I mean, if we're being honest, the trailer pretty much has all the most memorable quotes from this movie. This is, of course, based off of the comic book series by the same name by Frank Miller and Lynn Varley. And in this movie, like the books, it's fictionalized retelling of the Battle of Thermopylae in the Greco-Persian War. The plot revolves around King Leonidas, played by Gerard Butler, who leads 300 Spartans into battle against the Persian god king Xerxes, played by Rodrigo Santoro, and his invading army of more than 300,000 soldiers. As the battle wages on, Queen Gorgo, played by Lena Headey, attempts to rally support in Sparta for her husband. And this also features Michael Fassbender in his feature film debut. I mean, this is probably Zack Snyder's, one of his more popular movies in general, and just the fact that just the quotes alone, the characters, the story arc, the visuals. It's a really good movie, man, and yeah, it's been criticized mostly for its historical inaccuracies, but then again, there are a lot of movies out there that have a lot of historical inaccuracies, but people are willing to buy that, but I digress. It was also criticized for its depiction of the Persians in this, which, again, it's a comic book movie. This is one of those times where I would say, it's kind of okay to do that. I mean, you're not going into 300 looking for accuracy. You're going in there to see some beautiful looking visuals, some over-the-top gory action, some memorable lines that are still very much quoted to this very day, and just a good fun time overall. And this is a good fun time overall. It's a very over-the-top movie, performance-wise, but, you know, it has a lot of memorable moments to it that just really stick out, even after all these years later. And it shows what Zack Snyder's capabilities are as a director. I mean, he's got a lot of, he has a lot of visual flair that he shows in these movies. And this was one of those movies that made people realize, hey, this guy's actually really damn good as a director. Of course, most of his movies nowadays are nowhere near as good as some of his earlier works. I mean, I think Sucker Punch kind of was the first one to really make you realize, wow, this guy has lost a lot of it, what made him so great in the first place beforehand. But back then, this was still what made it work overall. Gerard Butler does show a lot of acting charisma. He works very well as King Leonidas. And it really makes you think about what could have been if he had just gotten some better movie roles besides some of the ones that he's gotten as of late. Mostly just in lackluster action movies, let's be quite honest. I mean, Olympus Has Fallen was pretty good, but, and of course he was in How to Train Your Dragon. But, yeah, a lot of the movies he made after this, where his name started to take off, have not been as good as this performance really should show. Of course, Lena Headey would go on to star in Game of Thrones, playing pretty badass antagonist in that show. Rodrigo said Taurus over the top and fun in this. Michael Fassbender, of course, this is his first movie. Dominic West is in here. David Wenham. A good cast overall. A good visual flair. What more can you really ask for with a movie like this? It's a Frank Miller story, for God's sakes. I mean, Frank Miller's stuff isn't the best creative story-wise in terms of movies. I mean, this is the guy that made RoboCop 3, for God's sakes. And The Spirit. But, yeah, this is a really good movie. A fantastic film. Mostly on the visuals, mostly on the characters, mostly on the memorable lines. It's a good, fun movie overall. I really like it a lot. Yeah, if you're going into this expecting a historically accurate storyline here, then you clearly are not the right audience for this particular movie. So, yeah. This is a really good movie. I like it a lot. Probably one of Zack Snyder's best films overall. No question about it. So, with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the lesser film that came out this weekend, which is Bong Joon-ho's The Host.
Something is ready to start feeding.
Why don't you contact the military, a human rights organization, something?
One of the greatest monster movies ever made. The Host, rated R, now playing.
Of course, Bong Joon-ho would later go on to direct movies like Snowpiercer and Parasite, which Parasite, of course, went on to win Best Picture in 2019. So yeah, this is the first movie where people were really introduced to this director as a whole, and not a bad movie to start him off on. It's a movie about a vendor whose daughter is kidnapped by a creature dwelling along the Han River, and the storyline is that you have this family that also plays a part in this, and it is not just a simple monster movie. That's what I really like about this movie, is that it's not just a simple monster movie. It's a monster movie that has a little bit more of a flair to it. It has more comedy to it than you would expect. A little more dramatic elements to it. Kind of a precursor to what Godzilla -1 would eventually become, that came out last year. And 2023, I should say, when I'm recording this. Not 2006, I should say. But yeah, this is a really good movie. And it actually had a lot more relevance than you would think compared to what it had back then, because when the COVID pandemic came out, this movie got a little bit of a cultural reevaluation to itself. I would rather see people watch this movie more than watch that terrible Steven Soderbergh movie Contagion, which everyone started watching back then too. Like, let's watch this movie let's watch this bland movie with all these big stars in here, even though it's a great director. Yeah, bottom line, I really don't like Contagion, but that's a completely different thing altogether. The actors in here are really good. I like the fact that it isn't just a typical monster movie. It takes more chances with it. It's much more funnier, much more creative in its scares, and it has a little bit of an emotional flair to it. It's a really good film, and it definitely shows what this director in particular would eventually go on to become more well-known for with stuff like Snowpiercer and Parasite, and his upcoming film, Mickey 17. Overall, I really like it a lot. It's a film that I think a lot of people, if you haven't seen this movie, but you've seen this director's other works, you definitely should check this one out, because it definitely fits right up there with some of his best works overall. It's a very underrated film, and one I definitely recommend checking out, The Host.
Mrs. Hanson? Your husband's in a car accident. He died on the scene.
Linda, Jim is gone.
I wake up and he's dead. I wake up and he's alive.
The husband was in a fatal car crash on Wednesday. He showed up at Tuesday, claiming he was already dead.
Oh, God.
It's never too late to fight for what's important in your life.
Something bad is going to happen.
Sandra Bullock. Premonition. Rated PG-13. Everywhere tomorrow.
Yeah, this isn't Sandra Bullock in the romantic comedies you've come to know her for the last 10 years before this, but no. This is back when Sandra Bullock was making her name known with movies like Speed and The Net and A Time to Kill. More completely outside of her normal romantic comedies that she was doing a lot of around this time. And, of course, that would eventually lead to her getting her Academy Award for The Blind Side, but this movie certainly is that. This is not that. Despite the premise being pretty interesting. You have Sandra Bullock as a homemaker who's married and experiences the days surrounding her husband's death, her husband being played by Julian McMahon from Nip Tuck and Fantastic Four, in a non-chronological order and attempting to save him from his impending doom. So she'll wake up one day and he's dead. She'll wake up the next day and he's still alive, and next day he's dead, next day he's alive, so on and so forth. And so there's this mystery going on about what's really going on here, who's behind this, who's involved in this whole thing, is Jim really dead or not? And it should be a really good concept. It's a really interesting idea using time travel as part of an idea like this, but kind of like with Deja Vu the year before, it's a good concept on paper, but when it's executed into a feature-length script like this, they needed better writers than this, because it really is not that good, and it really is such a bummer when it's all said and done, because there's just so much possibility with a concept like this, and a cast that includes names like Sandra Bullock and Julian McMahon, two really good actors overall. The cast also includes Nia Long and Amber Valletta, a lot of good talent, and just a really good concept overall, but the mystery is not engaging whatsoever, and when we get to the actual reason for why everything is working out like this, it's one of those moments where it's just like, you gotta be kidding me. There's two ways you can go with this. One, you could have an engaging mystery that actually has a twist that really does come out of nowhere and actually fits with what you're trying to deal with here. Or you can be really stupid or just go along with it because the movie beforehand is really good. Or the third option, which I'm just going to mention now, doing something really stupid and just saying, just go with it. And it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This is that third option here, and it would help if the movie was actually really good and actually lived up to the potential of its premise. But it doesn't do that. It goes for the most ridiculously stupid twist I've seen in a long, long time. M. Night Shyamalan would kill himself if he watched the way this twist comes up. He's looking at this going like, I write better twists than this, and he wrote some really bad twist endings back in the day. Still kind of does here and there, but not as much as he did before. But yeah, the bottom line here is that the twist sucks. It's not a good twist whatsoever. It just really adds up to a film that has so much potential to it, and just couldn't do anything to seal the deal at the end. It's a disappointment. It's a massive disappointment on so many levels. And yeah, it's a film that really blew every opportunity it had. It had the cast, it had a really good story. The script is really what ruins it, and the direction is really what ruins it too, and the twist really ruins it. Just everything about it is just bad. It's just such a mess of a film. It's a major, major disappointment nonetheless. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. The director of Saw gives us his first major studio project, Dead Silence.
There's an old ghost story about a woman named Mary Shaw.
The ventriloquist who was murdered.
She was buried with her doll collection.
They didn't stay dead on March 16th.
They'll come for us, one by one.
If you scream, you die.
She's here.
Dead Silence. Rated R. In theaters March 16th.
Once again, kind of like with Premonition, a really good concept, a lot of really good talent in here, but, you know, style over substance is really another one of these examples of this movie. But, like I said, this is James Wan's first major studio project after breaking out with Saw a couple years prior, and, you know, this was his first major studio film, considering Lionsgate wasn't really seen as like the big major six studios at that point, but it eventually would become that. But in this film, after his wife meets a grisly end, Jamie Ashton returns to his hometown of Ravensfair to find answers. His investigation leads him to a ghost of a ventriloquist named Mary Shaw, who seems to have ties with to his entire family tree. And of course, you see all these creepy-ass puppets all over the place, and you think the movie is going to be really, really scary because, yeah, the puppets in here are really legitimately terrifying, and there's a good cast involved in here. Amber Valletta's in this movie again, her second film of this weekend. Donnie Wahlberg, character actor Bob Gutton from The Shawshank Redemption and most recently Ghostbusters Afterlife. Just a lot of things about this movie that could work overall, but again, style over substance. The visuals look really good. The story is about as generic as you can get, and you can tell that this movie probably had a little bit of studio interference overall, and yeah, it really would not be surprising whatsoever if that was indeed the case. In fact, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the studios did get involved in here because they didn't trust this director for a big project like this, for a major studio, and unfortunately the film really does not live up to the hype that I think it really should have had. I mean, the puppets in here are legitimately terrifying. There's a lot of good atmosphere and tension-filled moments in here, but the execution, the story department really just falls apart. And apparently there was a script doctor that got involved in this, and usually they're not very good at their jobs, especially with horror films like this. And probably it took away what the intended vision for Leigh Whannell, the writer of this, probably had in mind. And it just leads to a film that had so much potential to it, so much promise to it, and just didn't deliver on any of it. And just, it's a shame, because there are some legitimately creepy moments in this movie, but it's not enough to carry the film overall as a whole, and it really is a letdown, because I feel like there's so much more that could have been done with this, but it just wasn't there, so. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is probably the best movie of the weekend, and even then, it's not really a great movie overall, but certainly is a lot better than Premonition and Dead Silence. It's I Think I Love My Wife.
I've been married close to 7 years. My wife is beautiful, intelligent, and a great mother. It's the perfect life. There's just one problem. We're bored out of our minds.
My face hurts. It's not your birthday.
Honey, why don't you get these?
Oh, I like these, and they're comfortable.
Rysher?
Hey, Nikki, Brenda.
Hi.
Nikki's an old friend.
Well, I should go pay for these.
Seeing Nikki got me thinking, what would it be like to be single again? Excuse me, would you like to have sex with me?
Of course I would.
Well, come on.
Nikki is on line 1. Let me take you to lunch.
From writer-director Chris Rock.
Before you get married, you get calls like,
I can't wait to see.
then after you get calls like,
I can't wait for you to come home and see these drapes.
no matter how much you try to look the other way, temptation is always staring you in the face.
Is there a problem, sir?
Is this Hooters?
No, sir.
Is it Hooters? Because if it is, you owe me some buffalo wings.
Tomorrow. Have you thought about what you want to do?
Can I ask a question? Why are you still married?
You ever think about getting a skill?
Oh, I got skills.
She's just a friend. Friend? Come on. I've had friends before. They don't look like Nikki.
I'll be there. Yes, something just came up. I called him 4 hours ago.
Richard is a responsible guy. I'm sure you don't have anything to worry about.
You want to help me with this?
Ooh, I
don't know what's going on with you, but you fix it.
There's a lot of ways to go wrong, but there's only one way to make it right.
I feel like it's my fault that we're not as close as we used to be. It's not your fault. It's my fault.
I love my wife. I love my wife. I love my wife. I think I love my wife. I'm not even turning around.
Or let's just call it what it really is. Chris Rock bags Wonder Woman and Olivia Pope. I mean, that's literally what the movie is. But in this movie, Brenda, played by Gina Torres, wears comfortable cotton panties. Nikki wears sheer lacy thongs. Nikki's played by Kerry Washington. Richard Cooper, played by Chris Rock, is in the middle with a good job in Manhattan, a house in the suburbs, two cute children with Brenda. His intelligent, good-looking wife was a teacher, but there is no sex in the 7-year marriage. So Richard's bored. Into the mix walks Nikki, a sexy, sassy single friend he has not seen in years. Nikki has problems and finds a reason to stop at his office every day. He tries to help, they have some fun, and he doesn't mention Nikki to Brenda. His work and reputation suffer. Is he about to scratch the 7-year itch? What choices does Richard have? Well, if you're in a marriage that you've been in for 7 years, chances are you probably should be just like, maybe I should not do this, but then again, I've never been married before, so what do I know? But I mean, if I had, like I said, if I had Gina Torres and Kerry Washington and I'm part of this love triangle, yeah, I probably would have a hard time choosing which one I would want to spend the rest of my life with. But this is actually based off of a remake of a French film called Love in the Afternoon by Eric Romer, and Chris Rock makes his directorial debut on this. Actually, no, I take that back. It's actually his second film as a director, with Head of State being the first one. He co-wrote this with Louis C.K., who, of course, would later work on Louis, and they would do a bunch of other projects together, including Pootie Tang, of all movies. But, yeah, this is a movie where I give Chris Rock a lot of credit for trying to do something that's outside of his norm. You know, Chris Rock, we see him in movies like, the aforementioned Pootie Tang, Down to Earth, what's another one? Head of State, like these movies where he has a specific brand of comedy that works to those movies in general. But here, you can tell he's trying to channel more of his Woody Allen-esque type of filmmaking, and he does this for a couple of movies. I think he does it much better with the next film he would direct, which is Top 5, which is still a movie that I really love, that came out in 2014, and really didn't really leave much of an impact with most people. It kind of came and went. It was a critical success, but in terms of the box office, like I said, it came and went. It really just kind of disappeared afterwards. But I still really like that movie a lot, and just recently, he's been doing more stuff that's outside of his norm. He was on Fargo. He did the Saw spin-off Spiral from the Book of Saw, which I thought was pretty good overall. And I think this movie does work to see something different from Chris Rock in general. Like, this is not the typical Chris Rock comedy that you would expect from him in general. And I think he does make it work here. In fact, there's a lot of things that I thought this movie did very well that something like The Last Kiss with Zach Braff the year before didn't really do. In this one, I got a lot more laughs. I like the relationships he has between his wife in the movie and this girl that he's come across all over again. And it just goes to show you the leading actresses that these two would later go on to become, like Gina Torres. I mean, Gina Torres was already Wonder Woman at this point, but Kerry Washington, it was one of the first movies I ever saw her in, and I thought, wow, this woman's got she's got a lot of potential as an actress going forward. And yeah, of course, now you see her nowadays on shows like Scandal, and of course what's that one on Hulu, the Onyx show on Hulu that was recently? I think it was Reasonable Doubt. I think. Was it Reasonable Doubt? I'm trying to see if I can find it. Got the name completely wrong. Unprisoned was the name of the show. Yeah, I've seen a little bits and pieces of it. I think it's pretty good. I think she's established herself as a prominent leading actress as a whole. And she plays well with Chris Rock here very well. I mean, the comedy in here can be good sometimes. The story kind of goes into predictable territory. We've seen them to death so many times before. And like I said, as much as what he tries to channel Woody Allen a lot in this, unfortunately, the movie doesn't work all the way through. And I think it really stumbles, especially towards the end of the movie. But there is a lot of stuff I did like about the film. There is more stuff that I can recommend that I would say is kind of against the movie in general. Not a perfect movie by any means necessary, but a film that I think is actually a lot better than people let on nonetheless. I mean, like I said, I think Chris Rock directed a much better movie after this with Top 5, but this one's not bad either. It's actually more than not bad. It's actually kind of good. So I would recommend it. If you like seeing Chris Rock doing something that's outside of his norm, I would recommend seeing him in this. I think he's very good in this movie. And I think the movie itself is pretty good, too. So, I think I love my wife.
Third, it's time for a new breed of hero to be heard.
Anyone for dessert?
Turn it on.
I say we kick butt.
Crank it up.
That's what I'm talking about.
Show it up.
Did anyone see that thing that hit us last night?
Only in theaters, TMNT.
It looked like your mom, dude.
That would make her your mom, too. Texas. Rated PG. Only in theaters, March 23rd.
Ah, yes, the movie that was made for every Ninja Turtles fan who grew up with the show back in the 80s and 90s. Here's the new movie for you. Now sit back and let us spend 15 minutes giving you the origin stories of all these turtles and what they're doing now, because that's just one of the many problems that this movie has right from the get-go. But in this movie, after having grown apart following the final defeat of their arch-enemy, the Shredder, the four Turtles, Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo, are set to reunite and overcome their faults to save the world from evil ancient creatures. Which, I mean, this movie really is one of those movies where it's just like, it's not a bad movie at all, but man, there's a lot of stuff in here that really just ruins the ebb and flow of the movie. Like I said at the beginning, the first 15 minutes is literally nothing but them just getting you acquainted with these characters again, like we're meeting them for the first time ever. I mean, it's supposed to take place after the events of what's supposed to be the last defeat of the Shredder, even though they tease that he's still alive at the end of the movie, which they were teasing for a sequel, but of course that never happened because the film didn't do so well. I mean, it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a flop by any means necessary, or it wasn't a bad movie per se, but it just didn't live up to the expectations that I think a lot of people really had set up for it. I mean, didn't even make $100 million back, but it was such a small budget movie compared to most CG animated movies. It also helped that this was also a Weinstein Company release as well, along with Warner Brothers, so you could honestly say that this is probably the best Weinstein Company animated film they did, but I digress. But, yeah, the biggest problems with the movie is that they spend way too much time setting up these characters like they're supposed to be brand new to this audience, even though this movie is clearly supposed to be taking place after the events of some big event that happens, so people should already be acquainted with who everybody is in this movie. Plus, the reasons for them getting back together really doesn't make a whole lot of sense per se. The big threat in this movie is not that intimidating whatsoever. It just leads to kind of a boring climax at the end, where they have to get all these creatures together to, like, save the world and all that, and it just doesn't work overall. I mean, and also, like I said before, there's way too much deep thoughts and storylines going on in this movie that just really, really kind of ruins the ebb and flow in here. Everyone in this is way too serious. Everyone in here is just way too, you know, they're not as funny as they should be. None of these characters are as funny as they should be. Like, everybody's taking it way too seriously, but I mean, they've got good voice actors to do these voices. You got James Arnold Taylor, who of course is known for his work on Star Wars, Nolan North, a great voice actor, Mitchell Whitfield, Mikey Kelly. You know, they have some good names attached to this movie. I mean, they do a pretty good job of playing these roles very well here, but yeah, the few funny moments that were in that trailer there, that's the few funny moments that was in this movie. I mean, there's not a whole lot of really funny moments in this film in particular, but in addition to them, you've got this star-studded ensemble supporting cast, including Sarah Michelle Gellar as April O'Neil, Chris Evans starring as why can't I remember his name now? Casey Jones. I should have known that, but Mako, who plays Splinter, who, truth be told, is probably the best thing about the movie in general. He does a very good Splinter in this. Patrick Stewart, Ziyi Zhang, Kevin Smith, the narration by Lawrence Fishburne. I mean, I'm very conflicted on this movie. And like I said, I don't hate it, but I don't really like it either. And thankfully, we did get a much superior animated movie that came out not but 16 years later with 16 years later, that came out in 2023. This is 2007, with Mutant Mayhem. And if I'm going to choose one or the other, Mutant Mayhem's going to win easily. I would rather watch the live-action Ninja Turtles movie. And I like the live-action Ninja Turtles movies more than most people do, but bottom line, it was good that Nickelodeon came in and brought the franchise back, because everything they've done since they got it really has helped. It really has helped boost the Ninja Turtles back into relevancy. Some really good TV shows that have come in the process. They had that great one in 2012. They had the Tales of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and of course we just had Mutant Mayhem. And I haven't seen the new series, but I mean, considering that I've liked what they've done so far with it, I got to get around to watching it at some point. But this one, I think, took itself way too seriously. It's not that it's a bad movie per se, just way too much is going on in here. It doesn't know if it wants to be a movie for the Turtles fans or just wants to be an origin story for the people that are just coming into it. It can't decide on which direction it wants to go with. And there isn't really a good story overall to really work with it in general. I mean, there's not much here about it that I can really appreciate about it, but like I said, I can't say it's a bad movie per se, but just more of an underwhelming film in general. If I had to pick the worst Ninja Turtles movie, probably Ninja Turtles 3 would still be at the top of the list, but this is right next to it. I mean, this isn't much of a good movie in general. I was kind of let down by it when I saw it again recently. Yeah, it's not as good as it should have been, but it should have been so much better. So that is TMNT. So let us go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Mark Wahlberg in Shooter.
They recruited him to take down an assassin.
There's going to be an attempt on the life of the president. We need you to stop it.
But he was the one being set up.
I'm never going to stop chasing you.
I got a plan. Kill him. I didn't start it, but I mean to see it through.
What are you going to do?
Exercise our right to bear arms.
Shooter.
Looks like you're all set for pretty much anything.
I couldn't agree more.
Rated R. Don't Friday, March 16th.
So in this movie, Mark Wahlberg plays Bob Lee Swagger. Talk about the name right there. Who is framed for murder by a mercenary unit operating for a private military firm. Danny Glover's part of that. You also have Michael Pena in here, Kate Mara, Ned Beatty among the cast in here. Antoine Fuqua doesn't really make a whole lot of bad movies per se, and this is a good movie, not a great movie overall, but like, it's not that it's like I said, kind of like with TMNT, it's not that it's a bad movie, but there isn't really enough about it to distance itself from other movies in general. I do think what carries it through is the direction by Fuqua. Mark Wahlberg, I think, very much fits the role very well here. He has that charisma that makes him an appealing action star in general. I just wish there was a much better movie involved in here that did kind of stand out on its own, like it kind of distanced itself from other movies in general of this type. And unfortunately, there really is not a whole lot there that kind of distances this from other movies very similar to this. And this is based off of a series of books too. I think series of books or one book. I know this one in particular is based off of Point of Impact by Stephen Hunter. I thought maybe it was a continuing series of books, but maybe I could be wrong on that. Maybe this isn't like Jack Ryan or what's the other one? Jason Bourne. But, yeah, as far as the film itself goes, it's fine. I mean, there's some pretty cool action sequences here and there, but it's not enough for me to say that this is one you gotta see. This is more just kind of like if there's nothing on TV, you can just pop it on and you can enjoy it for what it is. I mean, this did actually lead to a television series, so it does have its fan base overall, if there's a television series based off of it, but like I said, nothing too spectacular about it, nothing too amazing, but Mark Wahlberg usually doesn't turn in a bad performance in movies like this, so watch it for that. Other than that, don't expect anything else from it per se. So with that said, let us go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Rainn Wilson in The Last Mimsy.
Ignore. And I dreamed last night something really important was going to happen.
What's that?
A boy who holds the key. Did you draw this?
Yeah.
The same image from my dream. What is it?
It's a map to the past and future.
Technology that no one's ever seen before.
On March 23rd,
Let's go. People in the future need our help.
the adventure begins. This is so far out of my league. The Last Mimsy, rated PG. Special preview Saturday, March 10th.
So in this movie, two siblings begin to develop special talents after they find a mysterious box of toys. Soon the kids, their parents, and even their teacher are drawn into a strange new world and find a task ahead of them that is far more important than any of them could imagine. Bottom line, this is one of the many, many E.T. clones we've gotten since the original film came out. And coincidentally, this is actually one of two E.T. clones that came out from New Line Cinema in 2007. But if your biggest names in this movie are Jolie Richardson, who hasn't really done anything of noteworthiness in terms of leading roles since maybe 101 Dalmatians, a couple other movies in particular, but that's all I remember her from. But I guess she was in Nip Tuck, then Horizon, The Patriot. But Timothy Hutton, I mean, he hasn't really done any big leading roles since he won that Oscar in the 80s. Catherine Hahn, who was still kind of seen as kind of a character actress back with her work in Crossing Jordan and in the Anchorman movies. Michael Clark Duncan, Rainn Wilson. Like, if those are your biggest names in the movie, probably not a good sign going forward for this film in general, but I don't know about this one. I mean, kind of like with TMNT, it's just like, I can't really say it's a bad movie per se, but there's just no purpose for it to existing, honestly. I mean, TMNT kind of existed because Ninja Turtles is a name and people will go to see it just for that, but the story didn't work well here. I don't even know what the story is in this movie that makes it so magical and mystical. It's also, for some reason, the only other film that Robert Shea, who ran New Line Cinema, directed, because of course he did The Book of Love back in 1990, and then he did this, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense in general, but there you go. I mean, that's a little bit of history for you, that the founder of New Line Cinema directed this, and quite frankly, I don't know why. I mean, nothing about this movie makes any sense whatsoever of why it exists. I mean, what am I supposed to take away from this film in general? Maybe if there was something magical happening that actually looked kind of cool in general, but no, there's just nothing in there that makes it worth it in the end. It's just kind of like, why am I even here? Why am I even sitting through this movie? There's just nothing there that makes it worth it in the long run. So, yeah, bottom line, I didn't like it. I didn't like it one bit. But then again, I could also say the same thing about our next movie, which is The Hills Have Eyes 2.
That the disturbing images of The Hills Have Eyes went too far. But on March 23rd, prepare to go even further. The Hills Have Eyes 2, rated R.
Well, obviously, we need more blood and gore because, hey, it worked great for Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the beginning. Wait, no, it didn't. And yeah, way to take the pretty awesome teaser trailer and just butcher it with that terrible narration there. So this is the sequel, of course, to the 2006 movie, which is not directed by Alexandre Aja, but this film follows several New Mexico Army National Guard comrades as they fight to survive against the mutant people living in a military base in the New Mexico desert. And like I said before, it's nothing but the original film, except much bloodier, much gorier, and much stupider than the first movie was. At least the first movie had legitimately good scares in it. This does not. This is the definition of a bad horror sequel that is literally just upping the violence, upping the ante, and just doing nothing of value whatsoever in the long run. It's a film that is so devoid of anything good story-wise and for anything of noteworthiness to it that they made it because the first movie was a surprise success, so cash in as quickly as you can with a cheap sequel, and this is exactly what this is. A pretty lame, cheap sequel, which is shockingly written by Wes Craven, who I really think deserves a lot. But then again, I say deserves a lot better, but he was also writing stuff like Curse at the same time this was coming out, so why should I even bother to think that this was going to change anything after watching something like that? But, not much more to say about this one per se. I think most people agree that this movie sucks. Even if you didn't like the original, even if you like the original film, the remake per se, it sucks. It just sucks completely. So, how about we get to some good stuff again? Here's Adam Sandler and Don Cheadle in Reign Over Me.
Going through something very profound.
This Friday,
He lost his family in 9/11.
one man's journey back
I don't play guitar. You pull people's teeth all day. It don't matter.
will inspire you to live every day
You in bed already? I'm always in bed at 10:30. That sucks.
like it's the best day of your life.
I was stuck in Johnny World. I couldn't leave.
Reign Over Me, rated R.
Another one of the many movies to have their storyline taking place after the events of September 11th. And in this movie, you have the story of former college roommates and old friends Alan and Charlie, Alan being played by Don Cheadle, Charlie being played by Adam Sandler, the latter of whom is struggling with depression after the death of his wife and daughters in the September 11th attacks. And this one kind of gets under the radar, per se. It wasn't a big hit when it came out, critically or financially. I mean, critically it did fine. It was actually one of Adam Sandler's better received movies in general around that time, but the film wasn't a big hit because people wanted to see Adam Sandler be stupid in a comedy instead of actually seeing him in a serious role. And, of course, because of that, he had to go back and keep making stupid comedies in general. But this really is a really good underrated film, and it really does show what Adam Sandler can do as a dramatic actor as a whole. Whenever he does dramatic roles, he usually knocks it out of the park. I mean, he's really good at these various dramatic roles. In this movie, he does it so well here. I think he works very well with the chemistry between him and Don Cheadle. You can believe that they are friends, and you can believe the little relationship that he has with Liv Tyler in here. Jada Pinkett Smith is also in here too. Donald Sutherland, Saffron Burrows, Melinda Dillon. This was actually the last movie she ever did before she retired from acting, and of course she passed away last year. But yeah, it's definitely a much better film than I think people let on. I think it's because of Mike Binder, who Mike Binder directed The Upside of Anger, which is another criminally underrated movie that came out around the same time period, 2 years prior. And yeah, this one kind of gets pushed off to the side in general, but it really does show what Adam Sandler can do with a much bigger dramatic role. And I think we'd later see that down the road in movies like Uncut Gems, of course, and Hustle. This is a really good movie, and one that I think definitely deserves to be seen. It's a very good film, a lot of good performances all around, a really good storyline. Just a really good film that sadly didn't get the attention it deserved. It definitely deserves the attention that it deserves. Go ahead and check this movie out. I highly recommend it. Right on for me. It's probably overall the best movie that came out this entire weekend, in my opinion. But with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here. That's Terrence Howard and Bernie Mac starring in Pride.
Come and swim with us.
I swim naked, and I don't want to embarrass nobody.
You reach for it like it's your last bit of life. They thought that because they were white, they were better than you.
This is our house, coach! This is our house, coach!
This is our house, coach.
This is our house! On your mark!
Academy Award nominee Terrence Howard, Bernie Mac, Pride. Rated PG. In theaters March 23rd.
My God, this was one of the most generic sports movies you'll ever see, if you even want to call it that per se. But in this movie, you have the story centering around Jim Ellis, who was a Philadelphia swim coach, and a grouchy but caring janitor, Elston, played by Bernie Mac. And the two have a short-lived rivalry before becoming good friends. They also, and of course, Jim Ellis has to lead this swimming team to a national championship and all, and its heart is in the right place. The casting overall is really good. There's also Kimberly Elise, Tom Arnold, in a very rare dramatic role where he actually isn't too bad in here per se, but it's just everything else about the movie is just so by-the-numbers underdog sports story that it just really gets boring right from the get-go, and it just never really lives up to what you would expect a movie like this to do with if they're trying to take it to the next level. If you're trying to do something on the line of Remember the Titans or something like that. But no, this falls into the category of the most generic sports movie you can think of, wasting two pretty solid performances by Terrence Howard and especially Bernie Mac. I talked about it not too long ago with somebody about, when we got the news that Netflix was carrying the Bernie Mac show, and it just made me realize, man, Bernie Mac, if he had been around, if he didn't die in 2008, it would have been really cool to see what would have happened if he had gotten more dramatic roles, because I feel like he could have been a really great dramatic actor, and this movie has one of those examples where I think that definitely shows, but unfortunately he passed away, taken from us way too soon, but the film, unfortunately, is just a typical by-the-numbers underdog sports movie, and not a very good one, per se. Like, maybe Disney could have made this better, but not by much, but at least they've had a better track record on these sports movies than other studios have. But yeah, this one just doesn't work in general. I was kind of let down by it when I saw it, because I really wanted to see Bernie Mac in a more dramatic role, and it just didn't work. So yeah, that's a hard skip on Pride. Just avoid it.
Two men skating together? Nuts? The odds are against them. How's this fun? But they'll do whatever it takes to become champions. Mind-boggling, isn't it? Did you just say mind-boggling? When things are so crazy, it gets your thoughts all trapped like in a bottle. Will Ferrell. Tonight is a very dark guy for me. It's dark for everyone, moron. Not for Alaskans or dudes with night vision goggles. Blades of Glory. Rated PG-13.
Yes, Will Ferrell is the only star that needs to be marketed in the TV ads, because, John Heder, what did he do? What has he done recently that's been successful? I mean, then again, probably not a whole lot of things. I mean, he's done good movies overall, but none of them were massively successful movies, so I guess it makes sense to market him in the commercials for this, but he's all over the posters, he's all over the trailers. I mean, he's part of the reason why the movie is so good, and the movie is really funny. This is a movie about a mismatched pair of banned figure skaters, played by Ferrell and Heder, who become teammates upon discovering a loophole that will allow them to compete in the sport again. And basically, they have to be couples, which means they have to go up against the then real-life couple of Will Arnett and Amy Poehler. You also have William Fichtner involved in this, as well as Jenna Fisher from The Office. And yeah, this is a really funny movie, and granted, yes, I like what Will Ferrell does with more of his dramatic roles, but Stranger Than Fiction didn't do well. I still think that movie is great overall, but this was still when he was making some pretty solid comedies overall, and this was a really solid comedy that, you know, it is the typical Will Ferrell formula, but for the first couple of years of this, it was working fine. We're not completely at the point where the movies that he was making were not going to be very good at all. We're still about a year away from that in general, but it's a very funny concept overall. It's a very funny movie indeed. Like, if you're not into figure skating at all, you could still get a lot of attachment to the movie just because of how hilarious the setup is and the situation is in general. And yeah, it's just a really good, funny movie that just works on so many levels. A lot of good talent involved throughout the movie. Nick Swartzen's also in the movie as well. Just a really good, fun movie. A really entertaining film. And yeah, I really like it a lot. I don't think it's a classic by any means necessary. It's a very heavily flawed movie, but goddamn, when it makes you laugh pretty hard. And it does make me laugh pretty hard at times, like the big fight scene towards the end where Will Ferrell and John Heder are fighting, and or it's Will Ferrell and Will Arnett, and there's like this chase going on, and they're still in their skates, and they're trying to move around, and they just can't move because they've got the skates on and all that. Like, that's funny stuff. That's some of the things that makes this movie worth it in the end. And yeah, the movie's overall really fun. It knows what it is. It knows how stupid it is. If you have the right mindset to go into it, you can have a lot of good fun with it. I know I did. I hope you do too. So that is Blades of Glory. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Disney's Meet the Robinsons.
Allow me to shed some light on the subject.
Next spring, two of the world's greatest minds are in a race to create the most astonishing invention ever imagined.
Prepare to be amazed!
One is in it for the glory.
I invented it! Me!
The other,
Where are we going?
to find a family he's never had.
This family's a little different.
Now, here's what you gotta do. You gotta help me find my key.
Walt Disney Pictures presents Meet the Robinsons.
I haven't slept in 8 days. I've got the caffeine patch. Each patch is the equivalent of 12 cups of coffee. You can stay awake for days with no side effects. Ah! Sorry.
Coming to theaters next spring.
So as I kind of mentioned, this is the start of a new era for Disney's animation department. See, after Chicken Little underperformed badly at the box office, there was a lot of also regime changes going on at Disney, with Michael Eisner leaving in 2005 and Bob Iger coming in to take over the head of the studio. Disney was finally able to get a deal done with Pixar to team up for good, and it also made John Lasseter the chief creative officer for Walt Disney Animation Studios, which meant that basically a lot of the movies that Disney had coming up had a much stronger chance of being good compared to some of the films that were coming up beforehand in terms of quality, and hopefully usher in a third golden age of Disney animation. And this was the first test of that new regime with Meet the Robinsons, based off the book by William Joyce. And you have a story about a kid named Lewis, who is an orphan who dreams of finding a family. His journey takes him to an unexpected turn where a mysterious stranger named Wilbur Robinson whisks him away to a world where anything is possible, the future. There he meets an incredible assortment of characters and a family beyond his wildest imagination, the Robinsons, who will help him lead him on an amazing and hilarious adventure with heartfelt results. And on the one hand, Meet the Robinsons does run much more efficiently and fluently than Chicken Little does, but at the same time, there's still a lot of things about it that I don't think works as well as I think it should. For one thing, I think the animation really doesn't hold as strongly as what Disney would later do. There's still kind of that choppy animation style that was in Chicken Little, although it is much more refined here, and there isn't a lot of that compared to what was in Chicken Little. But the world itself looks pretty cool. It's a very stylistic-looking future in general. I think the characters themselves are not that memorable or exciting either. There's nothing really bad about them. There's just nothing about them that makes them memorable at all. The only character I thought was really cool was the bowler guy, and we get a great backstory about how he becomes the villain in here. And I will say that is a very good thing. That's part of what I really like about the movie. The message of the movie. Unlike Chicken Little, the message in the last few minutes of the film really are the strongest parts of the movie. I think the message of the film is much more established here. It actually is a really strong message, and it does a pretty good job of doing basically, kind of the anti... Because, the bowler guy's not really a villain per se until he's a villain until you realize that it's not really him that's doing it, and the thing that's making him do it, it leads into a lot of really good elements and things I really liked about it. And the film even itself ends with a quote by Walt Disney himself, so it's already a step in the right direction for the studio to go into. But unfortunately, I don't think it makes Meet the Robinsons overall a great movie. It definitely shows a lot of the promise that Disney would later give us with some of their movies coming forward, but it still has a little bit too much of that wannabe DreamWorks-esque style that they were trying to do with Chicken Little, and a movie that looks this nice and has a good message to it should have a better look to it than what they give us here. It kind of falls flat big time when it matters the most, with the lousy story and some pretty annoying characters at times. It's the movie, I think, that forced Disney to start thinking about, making a change in their animation studio. And thankfully, that changed very quickly, because the following year, they would start what I think is their third renaissance overall, starting with their next movie, Bolt. But we'll get to that one eventually. But Meet the Robinsons, good movie, not a bad film at all, but definitely kind of underwhelming overall compared to some of the other movies that I expect better from Disney. But it's a step in the right direction for where they would go from here. At least that's what I think about it. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Joseph Gordon-Levitt in The Lookout.
What happened to you?
Now I have to write everything down just to make it through the day.
When nothing is what it seems.
Someone your old life. You can't give that to me.
How will you know who to trust?
I can help you. Want me to rob the bank? Whoever has the money has the power.
What are you doing?
Clean myself.
You job and shut your mouth.
I have the money. I have the power.
The Lookout. Rated R. Theaters everywhere. Friday, March.
So Joseph Gordon-Levitt stars as a once promising high school athlete whose life is turned upside down following a tragic accident. After he tries to maintain a normal life, he takes a job as a janitor at a bank, where he ultimately finds himself caught in a planned heist. Also, something I think is kind of funny is that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character's name in this movie is Chris Pratt. And this was around the time when Chris Pratt was still a relative unknown and is still about a couple years away from becoming more well-known with stuff like Parks and Recreation. But I think that's kind of amusing that his name in this movie is Chris Pratt. I don't know if that was entirely coincidental or not, but I don't know. He was around, but not the big star that he would eventually become just a couple years later. But what a really good movie, man. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, once again, delivering another solid film overall. Another solidly underrated movie, because he's made a lot of really good movies. Starting with this movie in particular. Not even that. Brick was the first real one, though. It's just like, that kid from Third Rock from the Sun can act, man. And he's really charismatic, very charming, very engaging. Here, I think he works very well. He's got a great supporting cast to work with here. Jeff Daniels, Matthew Good, Bruce McGill, Isla Fisher, Carla Gugino. This is written and directed by Scott Frank, who would later direct another really good underrated film, Liam Neeson's A Walk Among the Tombstones, which is a phenomenal movie, a phenomenal thriller. And this is a good, fun noir movie with a lot of really good intrigue, figuring out what this heist is all about, who's really working for who can you really trust in this situation. And it works very well on so many levels. I think it's a very entertaining film. Definitely a very underrated movie. One that did not get the attention that it deserved back then. But it's definitely one that needs to be seen. I think it's a fantastic film. I can't recommend it enough. Definitely check out The Lookout.